That will be the tone of the next episode. In episode 4, we got to see how all these people who were brought together for the White Walker threat are already tearing apart within the first few nights. And the shot we get here at the beginning of the episode 5 preview really displays the mood of the episode. It's dark and gloomy. Dany feels isolated from all her advisors and on her own, with Missandei dead, Jorah dead, her dragon dead, not to mention this inconvenient truth that's been placing this divide between her and Jon, as well as her and her power. Most of her Unsullied have been destroyed, her Dothraki have been decimated, and Grey Worm is heartbroken. She's had so many people sacrifice themselves for her and her future, and she feels that she's had this destiny her whole life, that everything she's done has come towards this moment, and it's slipping away from her grasp. And the way we see Tyrion cautiously approach her, slowly walking up, not wanting to interrupt too heavily, shows how he worries for her mindset, her stability, and really does want to connect to her and help her not make a rash or crazy decision in these next few moments when she's especially vulnerable from everything that's happened. Tyrion himself is in a very interesting position. He's going to have to work really hard to try and be the middleman between Daenerys and those that are losing faith in her. He sees that Dany has a good side to her. She cares for her subjects a lot, and they love her back, and that's what makes it so hard for her to sacrifice them for the goodwill of people who she doesn't know who fight against her, like the people in King's Landing. But it seems if Tyrion isn't able to convince her to take a more cautious approach, then she will begin to lose all of her allies. So he'll still have a very important role in these next 2 episodes. With the Battle of Winterfell done and over, the Battle of King's Landing comes next. Cersei said to Jaime once before that she can submit and die or fight and die. She knows her choice. And from last episode we can see she's clearly holding strong to that. Cersei's always lived by the motto, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. So by the end of this episode it could be that either Cersei is dead or Dany is dead. There's no middle ground. And we get a shot of the army preparing to fight and the gates of King's Landing. And it kind of answers the question we had in the previous episode, where there was like all these ballistas and archers on the walls, but Dany, her dragon, all her advisors were like standing a little bit far back. And I assume that from this army being here that they're not in range, otherwise they would be firing them right now. So I guess the ballistas can't shoot that far. I was wondering the entire time they were having the negotiation, why didn't just take out the dragon then along with Dany and all of her advisors? Because we saw the ballistas fire from miles and miles away and accurately hit a flying moving target in the air. But perhaps the ones on the ships have a far better range and accuracy than the ones on the walls, but I don't know. Now we can also see this giant legion of troops that make up the Golden Company. And it seems that Cersei's so confident in her victory with their numbers, overwhelming force against fatigued, smashed troops, that she's actually putting them outside the gates in the open area. So she's not really worried about the army, she's only really worried about the dragons, and if they're under the walls right with the ballistas, the dragon can't really get to them. And from the shot we get of Jon Snow, it looks like he's pretty worried about what they're facing as well, because he understands he's been with the troops, they've been on the march all the way from Winterfell, so they're pretty tired, they didn't have much rest, they hadn't had that time to recuperate, tons of their wounded wouldn't be able to come with them, so they're definitely undermanned for this kind of fight. These troops are trained, well armed, really good fighters, super experienced, and quite importantly, very fresh. So I think his tactical mind is kind of switching on here and thinking, wow, we might not be able to win this one. Now this first shot we get here of a bell reminds me of the season 6 finale, when the bell rang and all the people came to the sept, and we all remember the boom boom that came after that. For quite some time I've been a fan of the theory that Cersei might blow up the Red Keep with wildfire, and I always thought that Jaime would be the one that would kind of come to King's Landing to try and wish her away or convince her to finally step down, and of course she wouldn't. And then Cersei would tell Jaime about her plan to blow up the Red Keep, destroying all her enemies at once like she did before with the Tyrells. And it's at this point that Jaime's like, oh no, I can't let her do this, and he knows he has to stop her. Perhaps at this point Arya tries to come in to assassinate her with the Hound, and then the Mountain steps forward and he has to deal with both Arya and the Hound. Then we get like a mini conclave bowl or something in the throne room while Cersei kind of runs away, and then Jaime kind of stops Arya from trying to kill her and goes in himself and finishes her off. However, while this is happening, they don't manage to stop Qyburn, who gets to the wildfire and blows up the Red Keep. And so we'll end with kind of Jaime having Cersei in his arms dead after he finally took her out, and either he'll die with her there or only his dark side would die with her. The hateful, bitter person he was, that he told Brienne he was, would die in that room, but he would walk out and survive, the new good man that he had turned into. We could get Clegane Bowl, Arya doing some cool ass shit, as well as Jaime doing his final arc and destroying Cersei, all in the same episode, wrapped in this big explosion and tragedy that leads the throne room to this big, charred, destroyed mess that we saw Dany have a vision of. And then it wouldn't be Dany who was the evil burning the whole world thing, it would actually be Cersei. Because Dany would be far too busy getting her sweet, sweet revenge on Euron. Dany has built up quite a big antagonist relationship with Cersei, but it's only been very recent because she's only just arrived in Westeros. So Dany's hatred isn't as personal or as important compared to some of the other characters with Cersei, but now that Euron has hit her again and killed one of her children, she definitely has a really personal battle with him. So I could definitely see an episode where she's focusing on avoiding these big ballistas, taking out Euron's fleet, going backward forwards at him, and then by the end of it, taking him down. As a character, Euron's just chaotic evil. There's no grey good side to him. Maybe there's a humorous side, but no good side. His motivations are impure, he's cruel and manipulative, and now he's standing in the way of Daenerys. It'd be so much better to have all of this anger and built-up tension that she's had be unleashed on Euron rather than the people around her like Tyrion and Jon. For her not to end up being the tyrant she's trying to crush, for her not to burn the Red Keep down and kill all these people, for that to be Cersei's burden. Plus, who doesn't want to see a giant CGI dragon dodging ballistic bullets while burning the living shit out of a giant fleet? Noticeably, we don't actually get any dialogue in this preview, which kinda could symbolize that the time for talking is over. We don't actually get any battle either, so we can't be sure that all of the fighting and everything will be wrapped up in this episode, even though it is quite a long episode, so we could have the time for that. It really depends how much of the epilogue and the wrap-up they want to have in the last episode, which could be on track with what Game of Thrones normally does, because the second last episode of seasons is generally when the big shit goes down. So can't wait for big CGI dragon stuff, the Golden Company being out in full action, they look really awesome, to see what Jon and all the other fighters and Grey Worm has a redeeming moment hopefully, not to mention all the possibilities of throwing Arya, the Hound, Jaime, all these little loose cannons into the mix some point in the episode. And as always, make sure to tell me your guys' thoughts on the episode we just got, as well as all the stuff we have in this preview in the comment section below. And if you've enjoyed this breakdown at all, it would be awesome if you could like the video. And I should have a review out for the episode tomorrow, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.